You know what's funny? Most people think the key to building wealth is making more money. And look, I get it, I used to think the same thing. But here's what actually happened when I decided to live on $20,000 a year while earning $50,000, and why this might be the most important financial decision you ever make. My name is Oric, and I spend way too much time thinking about the gap between what we earn and what we keep. If you're someone who feels like you're making decent money but somehow still living paycheck to paycheck, or you're wondering why your bank account doesn't reflect your salary, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. So let me paint you a picture. It's 2019 and I'm making $50,000 a year. Not terrible, right? I mean, that's roughly the median household income in America. I should feel comfortable. But here's the thing. I was broke. Not actually broke, but you know what I mean. That kind of broke where you've got money in your account but you're still stressed about spending it, where you can't really explain where your money goes each month. And then I read this statistic that completely changed my perspective. According to a Federal Reserve study, 40% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing money or selling something. 40%. These aren't unemployed people we're talking about. These are people with jobs, with incomes, with direct deposits hitting their accounts every 2 weeks. And I realized I was one of them. Now, you might be thinking, Oric, that's because people don't make enough money. And sure, wage growth hasn't kept up with inflation, housing costs are insane, I'm not denying any of that. But here's what most people don't realize. Lifestyle inflation is a silent killer. When you make $30,000, you spend $30,000. When you make $50,000, you spend $50,000. When you make $100,000, somehow you're still living paycheck to paycheck. So I decided to run an experiment. What if I just didn't increase my spending when my income went up? What if I kept living like I made $20,000 while actually earning $50,000? That's a $30,000 gap. That's $2,500 a month. That's the kind of money that could completely transform your financial life. Let me break down the actual math here because this is where it gets really interesting. On $50,000 a year after taxes, you're looking at roughly $3,400 a month take-home, depending on your state. Living on $20,000 meant I had to keep my expenses at about $1,350 a month. Everything. Rent, food, transportation, everything. Your first thought is probably, that's impossible. And look, in some cities, yeah, it would be. But here's what I did. I found a studio apartment for $650 a month. Was it in the trendiest neighborhood? No. Did it have granite countertops and a rooftop pool? Definitely not, but it was clean, safe, and mine. That's 48% of my budget right there. Food was $250 a month. Now, before you say that's crazy, think about this. That's about $8 a day. I meal prepped every Sunday. Rice, beans, chicken, vegetables, eggs. I wasn't eating ramen every night. I was eating real food, just without paying someone else to cook it or serve it to me. The average American spends $250 per person per month eating out. I spent that on all my food. Transportation was $150 for a used car payment, insurance, and gas. I bought a $3,000 Honda Civic that had 150,000 miles on it. Did my friends make fun of me? Absolutely. Did it get me to work every single day? Also yes. Here's the thing about cars. They don't care about your ego. A $3,000 car and a $30,000 car both get you to the same place. Phone bill was $40 with a budget carrier. Utilities averaged $80. I put $100 into a miscellaneous category for everything else. Clothes from thrift stores, the occasional coffee, basic toiletries. That left me with about $80 buffer for anything that came up. That's $1,350. Every single month, $2,050 went straight into savings and investments before I could think about spending it. That's 60% of my take-home pay. Now, here's where the psychology gets interesting. The first month was hard, really hard. I felt like I was depriving myself. I'd see my coworkers going out to lunch and I'd be sitting there with my meal prep container feeling like a weirdo. I'd scroll through Instagram seeing people my age taking trips to Europe, buying new cars, living in nice apartments, and I felt like I was missing out. And then I shifted in month 3. I checked my savings account and saw $6,000 sitting there. $6,000! I had never had that much money in my life, and suddenly this feeling of deprivation transformed into this feeling of power. Because here's what most people don't realize. Having money isn't about what you can buy. It's about options. It's about freedom. It's about not being scared when your car makes a weird noise or your laptop dies. By month 6, I had $12,000 saved. I started investing $1,500 a month into index funds. And this is the part that really blows my mind when I think back on it. I stopped feeling like I was sacrificing anything. The lifestyle I thought I needed, I didn't actually need it. The things I thought would make me happy, they didn't. You know what actually made me happy? Waking up and not being stressed about money. Going to work because I wanted to build my career, not because I desperately needed the next paycheck. Having the ability to say no to things that didn't serve me. Let me tell you what happened after 1 year. I had $24,000 in savings. $24,000. The average American has $4,500 in savings. I had built an emergency fund that could cover over a year and a half of expenses. But more than that, I had completely rewired my relationship with money. Here's the controversial part. I could have afforded to spend more. Obviously, I was earning $50,000, but choosing not to was the most liberating decision I ever made, because every dollar I didn't spend was a dollar that could work for me instead of me working for it. Now, after 2 years of living like this, something incredible happened. I got a raise to $65,000, and you know what I did? I kept living on $20,000. Now, I was saving $35,000 a year on a $65,000 salary. Do you know what kind of savings rate does? According to the principles of financial independence, if you save 60 to 65% of your income, you can retire in roughly 10 to 12 years, not at 65, not at 60, at whatever age you are now plus 10 to 12 years. That math completely changes your life trajectory. Look, I'm not saying everyone needs to live on $20,000. That's not the point. The point is the gap. The point is that somewhere between what you earn and what you spend is your ticket to financial freedom, and most people make that gap as small as possible when they should be making it as large as possible. Here's what I learned about the psychology of money during this experiment. We don't actually want most of the things we buy. We want the feeling we think those things will give us. We want status, comfort, security, happiness. But here's the plot twist. Buying things give you none of those feelings long term. You know what does? Financial security, having options, not being controlled by debt or dependency on your next paycheck. The hedonic treadmill is real. You buy something, you get a hit of dopamine, and then 3 weeks later you're back to baseline and looking for the next thing to buy. It never ends, unless you get off the treadmill entirely and realize that the game is rigged against you. Now you might be thinking, Auric, that sounds miserable. I don't want to live like I'm poor when I'm not. And I get that objection, but let me reframe it. I wasn't living like I was poor. I was living intentionally. There's a massive difference. Poor means you don't have choices. Intentional means you're making choices that align with your actual goals instead of what society tells you your goals should be. Every financial decision is a trade-off. When you buy a $6 latte every morning, you're trading about $2,000 a year. That's not just $2,000 today. If you invested that money for 30 years at a 7% return, that's over $200,000. Every single financial decision you make is actually a decision about your future self. Here's what I want you to understand. The system is designed to extract money from you. Credit card companies want you in debt. Car companies want you buying new cars every few years. Social media wants you feeling inadequate, so you'll buy things to feel better. Restaurants want you too tired to cook. The entire economy is structured around you spending every dollar you make, plus some you haven't made yet. The average American has over $6,000 in credit card debt. The average car payment is $735 a month. The average person spends $3,500 a year on coffee and eating out. These aren't accidents. These are systems designed to keep you working, spending, and feeling like you never have enough. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. You can opt out. Not completely, obviously. You still need to participate in the economy, but you can be intentional about it. You can decide that your future freedom is more important than your current comfort. You can choose to live below your means instead of at them or above them. After 3 years of living on roughly $20,000 while my income grew to $70,000, I had over $90,000 invested. $90,000! And because of compound growth, that money was making money. My investments were generating enough returns that I was earning thousands of dollars a year without doing anything.
This is what people mean when they talk about making your money work for you. At a certain point, your money starts generating more money than you can save from your paycheck. That's the tipping point. That's when you realize you're going to be okay. That's when financial anxiety starts to disappear. I need to be clear about something though. This isn't easy. It requires saying no a lot. It requires being different from your peers. It requires delayed gratification, which our brains are literally wired to be terrible at. But you know what else isn't easy? Being 50 years old with no retirement savings, being stuck in a job you hate because you can't afford to quit, having a medical emergency that bankrupts you. That's not easy either. So here's my challenge to you. Figure out what you actually need to live on, not what you currently spend, what you actually need. Then look at the gap between that and what you earn. That gap is your wealth building machine. The bigger you can make that gap, the faster you build wealth. It's literally that simple. Start small if you need to. Save 10% of your income, then 15%, then 20%. Every percentage point you increase your